We are live for another episode of the Thumb Strong podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the real reason why people struggle with nutrition and how to fix it. We've talked about this 100 times, but I think it's important that we just always remind people of the right way to do things. And so we're going to kind of get into why most people struggle with nutrition, why diets fail, and how to create a sustainable approach to eating healthy. You don't need to be perfect to get results, and we're going to break that kind of all down today. So the first part is why most people fail with diets. And I love this dieting cycle. And it says that we go from restriction to cravings to overeating to feeling guilty, and then we repeat. So once we feel guilty, maybe we put some weight back on, then we go back to restrictive dieting. And then after a certain amount of time of restrictive dieting, we get cravings, and then we binge, and then we feel guilty after a certain point, and then we keep repeating this cycle kind of over and over.
It seems simple, but the cycle can happen in a day. Like in one singular day, all phases of that cycle can happen, or it can happen in like
a month or
span
2
of months.
weeks.
Yeah,
for sure. So the problem with kind of the all or nothing thinking, most diets are unsustainable because they create extreme rules. So a lot of diets out there, they're kind of meant to be quick fixes. They're meant to help you drop 15 pounds in 30 days, 30 pounds in 30 days, because that's the marketing angle that they're using. A lot of these different organizations or companies, they're follow this and get this product with it and all this kind of stuff to lose X amount of pounds in X amount of time. It's kind of it's a marketing tactic to get people to do it, in my opinion, for a lot of them. I mean, obviously some of them aren't, but the problem with that is you go from 0 to 100, and you go from eating what you're currently having, and you might be eating out for a couple meals a day or a few times a week. And then you go to extremely clean, completely changing your nutrition. There's going to be a point to where you hit this roadblock, or you struggle with being able to stay on that because it's so drastic from what you were doing. So people kind of expect to follow this and be perfect with it, but if you slip up, you get really frustrated, and oftentimes people quit. And actually, I know from my research that I think only 5% of people are successful with a diet that they try long term. So 95% of people essentially relapse to back to kind of their old habits, or they will put the weight back on that they had lost in any given period.
They regain it within 1 to 5 years.
Yeah, 95%. Within 1 to 5 years, 95% of people are going to regain whatever they had lost in the diet.
So or more.
Or more, yes. Yeah. Because, and we talk about this all the time, most people that do these diets, they don't do the strength training with it. They're probably under eating as far as getting protein in as well. So the majority, not the majority, but a good percentage of that weight loss is actually muscle mass. And from my research on Ozempic, for example, up to 40% of that weight loss was muscle mass. So if somebody lost 50 pounds, 20 pounds of it could be muscle mass, which is absolutely insane. Muscle helps burn calories, keep body fat off. It's essential for every daily tasks. You got to have strength. I've talked to people who have been on Ozempic for a year or two, and they said, I just don't have the strength anymore to do daily things. Just getting up off a chair is hard, that kind of thing. So by not incorporating the strength training with it, a lot of these people are losing muscle mass. And if muscle helps burn calories, then you go back to eating your old stuff, you actually end up putting more weight on than where you originally started, which is super scary.
Yeah, if that's the case, we have a lot of clients in here that are older, and some of them, have more trouble walking or getting around. And if, let's say, one of them go on Ozempic and they lose 40 pounds of muscle, well, sometimes they don't have muscle to lose.
No,
They're like, you know what I mean? They can't afford to lose that muscle.
Even 5 to 10 pounds is drastic.
Yeah, so both of those versions of them unhealthy, right? One's maybe a little overweight, and they're internally they're not healthy, and then the other one is like just so they don't have any muscles, so if they fall, there's nothing there. They can't hold themselves up. They're at a higher risk of falling, breaking a bone. You know what I mean? So both sides of that.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
So you're either kind of overweight, which obviously leads to other health risks, and obviously a lot of people are just uncomfortable in their own skin, and maybe they lack energy and that kind of thing. So then you do these restrictive diets or something like Ozempic, you do lose the weight. Okay, yes, you're thinner. Maybe you have you feel a little bit better, but you're weaker. You have people that we've seen a lot of people get injured from lack of strength if you do fall, increased risk of osteoporosis, that kind of stuff. So there's kind of the pros and cons to.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you lost all this weight, but now what?
Now what? Yep. You also talked about this a while ago. The more times you do a diet, the harder it is to actually get it off, right?
Yeah. Because what happens is your body, the first time you do a diet, so you lose weight, your body does make some adaptations so that way it prevents that same weight loss in the future. Because if you think about it, in survival times, you'd have lean times, fasting times. The people that were able to keep weight on and not starve through those starvation periods, or food when they had less food, times when they had less food, they were able to survive. So those genes have carried on. And so if somebody goes on a diet and say they go very aggressive and they lose 20 pounds in a month, and all of a sudden they jump back up, and then the second time they go and try to lose that 20 pounds, it takes them 2 months. And the third time they gain it back, then it takes them 3 months to do it. And so it takes longer and longer. It gets harder and harder to continue losing weight. And even the same thing as if, you did keep the weight off, say you lost 20 pounds, went from 200 pounds to 180, going from 180 to 160 still isn't going to happen as fast because it's, it's still different since it's you've already lost some weight and your body adjusts. And they've done some different research. People that are a certain body weight, height, gender, they haven't lost any weight throughout their lifespan, their resting metabolic rate, or the calories that they burn resting without any extra exercise, is higher than those who were higher and then lost weight, but they're at the same body weight level. So
like if somebody is like, I've weighed 160, 170 pounds, like most of my teenage and adult life.
But say there was somebody else, like clone of DeLorean, right? Like you had a twin, but he got up to 200 pounds, right? If he lost weight and got down to your body weight and was same muscle mass, everything, still wouldn't burn as many calories as you.
Right. If we were both sitting at the same weight and just staying there, I'd still be.
You could still eat more and maintain your body weight, and then he'd have to eat less to maintain his body weight.
Yeah.
So that's what happens for a lot of people if they do go on Ozempic or go on a crash diet, is their body gets used to that being their set point of like, oh, I'm only eating 1,500 calories. And then their body gets used to that as like, okay, well, this is my baseline then. And eating anything above that. So then when people are like, they get fed up with it and end up self-sabotaging because they're like, oh, this is unrealistic expectation for me to hold myself to for diet strictness. If they're doing a crash diet or something like that, then when they go back above that, that's when the body's like, oh, we need to take advantage of this amount because that became the new baseline. Since they go over that, and their body just wants to hold on to that a little bit harder. So you're always telling your body something, and that's why doing something like a crash diet, it does affect your body more so than just, hey, I'm losing this weight. It's also training your physiology as well.
Yeah. Crazy.
Anyways,
yeah. Another key point in here on kind of why they fail, we already kind of touched on restrictive diets often lead to regaining the weight within a year or 5 years. Emotional and habitual eating plays a huge role. So a lot of times people aren't actually hungry. They just have these cravings because there's some kind of emotional thing going on. So people have always heard of stress eating, or, what do you see on every movie where there's a breakup? You get the tub of ice cream out and you start eating. It's
Yeah.
like a sadness eating. There's boredom eating.
Yeah.
If you're bored, you just grab a snack and start eating. So there's so many different emotions and just habits that are tied to the way that we eat. So if you can kind of change some of those habits, or the environment at least, is probably the easiest way to do it. If you don't have it available to you, it's a lot easier to stay on track than if it's easily available. You could obviously find things that help combat the stresses or emotions that you're dealing with other than food. So like, what else brings you joy other than eating sweets and stuff like that when you are stressed or sad? So it's like replacing those is ways to obviously overcome it, but that's just things that of why these kind of diets fail. But the other thing that we just want to touch on really quick is a lot of people that are doing diets, crash diets and Ozempic, things like that, they just don't understand the difference between weight loss and fat loss. And we kind of already talked about it a little bit, but weight loss is just total body weight decrease. So, it might be going from 200 pounds to 180 pounds. What people don't take into account is, like we were talking about earlier, a percentage of that is going to be muscle mass. And oftentimes with a lot of these diets or Ozempic, it's going to be upwards of 20 to 40% of that weight. It could be muscle mass. So fat loss, although the number on the scale might not go down as quickly, the body composition is changing. So the actual appearance. So what we see with our clients is they might not see the scale go down as quickly, but when they look in the mirror, they see a big difference. When they wear their clothes, they're like, oh, my clothes are fitting way better. That's because instead of losing 20 to 40% of their muscle mass, they're actually gaining muscle mass as they're dropping body fat. And we all know body fat, it takes up a lot more circumference than muscle mass. So like if I had, say, I don't know, this would be your 5 pounds of muscle mass, your 5 pounds of body fat would be like this microphone plus this water bottle and the Fit Aid. It's about triple the size. So it's a lot more dense. So that's why if I gained 5 pounds of muscle and lost 5 pounds of body fat on the scale, I'm going to be, oh, what the hell? I didn't lose any weight. But if you looked at me, I'm going to look a lot better. So just make sure you understand the difference between weight loss and actual fat loss. So anything else that we want to get into on segment 1 on why people kind of fail with diets, or can we move into segment 2?
I just want to touch on that. It's way more of a habitual and a mental thing than people give it credit for. People can stick to a very harsh, extreme diet change for a few weeks, maybe even up to a month or so. But if it's such a drastic change, it's hard for them to white knuckle it for a long time.
Yeah.
And so that's where we'll get into making smaller, more sustainable changes that they can do the rest of their life is going to be way easier, or it's going to be better long term to maintain results, even though it's going to be slower progress.
Yeah. The other thing you just reminded me of, when we did a talk on this a while ago on willpower, and think of willpower almost like a fuel gauge, and you have so much of it every day. And everything you do throughout the day, not everything, but certain things take a certain amount of willpower. And when you're doing something like this, it takes a lot of willpower to cut out all the bad stuff and to eat only the good stuff and to restrict all these calories or whatever you're doing. It takes a ton of willpower, and there's only a certain amount that you can really sustain in a daily basis. And there's only a point where if you're not recovering that every single day, that you're going to run out. And that's when we end up, screw this, and then you go on that binge or whatever. So we basically, point being, we want to make sure that you're doing something that requires less willpower. You want to try to just make it as simple as possible. That way you can actually do it long term. So now we can kind of go into that. Okay, how do we create a sustainable approach? We want to shift our thinking from short-term dieting to long-term nutritional habits. I actually personally hate the word diet. I don't know. Interesting. Somebody's phone's in here. I'm gonna grab that real quick. You want to continue with that?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know where we were, but anyway, shifting
Threw a curveball.
short-term dieting to long-term nutrition habits. So, finding out the skills that are going to help you be successful long-term. So instead of just following some influencer's meal plan of like, hey, eat this half an avocado and then do this much chicken and just following that over and over and over again, obviously it gets boring. Instead, if you learn and build skills around food choices, like, okay, I'm going to have, this is my emergency go-to snacks of, it's a protein like meat stick, like the First Form ones, or a protein bar. It's like if I'm on the run, instead of going to fast food, I'm going to have one of these and some fruit or something like that. Or doing like making sure that you know how to cook and how to meal prep and things in ways that you enjoy the food. And then that way it makes the dieting process easier and more sustainable that way because you actually enjoy it. So if you can enjoy the process and actually make it a little bit easier than it does starting out, because it's hard doing changes.
Yeah.
So if you can make it easy and simple and actionable that way and building those skills around it, that's going to make a huge difference. And even just grocery shopping is a skill, and looking at food labels and knowing what's in foods and what's great and what's good for you, what's not the best for your goals, calorie content, things like that. That's a skill in and of itself.
Yep. I love watching YouTube videos, like influencers on YouTube, and seeing what they eat and like getting ideas from them, knowing that, okay, this just because I eat this doesn't mean that I'm going to look like them, right? But like I can see what they're eating. Like I'm kind of a lazy cooker. I don't really like to cook that much, so a lot of their meals are like quick prep, and I used to get a lot of my ideas from them. And they're all like high protein meals, and so it's a good like source of ideas that you can
Make
use.
sure that's actually reputable. Like they know what they're doing or talking about.
I mean, most
But at
of
least
them,
just
like at the most basic level of nutrition, are like eating for muscle gain.
They're eating,
Yeah.
beef and rice and some broccoli, and it's like super
Like,
plain and boring, but
what combination of can I put with my beef this week?
Yeah. Oh, we're doing sweet potatoes this week, really spicing it up.
No, what I was trying to say earlier is like I don't really like the word. I don't know. Like I hate the word diet. Like people just need to eat real food. They just we call it like a nutrition strategy. We're just improving our nutritional habits. It's not going on a diet or anything.
No.
Yeah.
And
even the term diet, it's not a short-term thing. Diet just means what you eat on a daily basis. It's not
a verb.
Yeah, we've
like a noun.
changed it to mean like, oh yes, we're dieting.
Yeah.
But yeah, focusing on your nutrition or improving your nutrition habits. That's a better way to talk about it.
Actually, a good way to think about it is I do like the way CrossFit defined their nutrition is eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, keep intake levels that will support your exercise but not body fat. So it's kind of like a simple quote or sentence that can sum up essentially what we want to do. So it's protein and vegetables, your nuts and seeds is like your healthy fats. You've got some fruits in there, little starches and no added sugars, and keep intake levels that are going to support your energy, your activities, your exercise, but not to a point to where you're gaining excess body fat.
Yeah, but that just means caloric intake.
Yes. Yeah. So that's just a great kind of summary of kind of what the goal would be. And what you were trying to say with like some of those recipes is just prioritize protein. That's going to be number one, healthy fats, your fibers, your vegetables, that kind of stuff, whole foods. Like when you're going through the grocery store, the best foods you can possibly buy are the ones that don't have a nutrition label on them.
Yeah.
So go around and get the vegetables and the fruits and the nuts and the protein sources if you eat that. And that's going to be your best bet. And then kind of minimally, more of 20% of the time, you're going to go in between the aisles and get the foods that, maybe have some added ingredients or something like that. Right. So, Did you touch on the small changes, power of small change yet?
Not necessarily.
Okay. So the power of small changes is obviously not changing everything at once, and that's kind of the problem with a lot of the crash diets is you're changing everything at once, and you're going into this diet and following it very strictly as good as you can. So our suggestion or what you want to do is actually start with one habit at a time. And I recommend doing that until it becomes routine to where you really don't have to think about it. And then you add in the next thing. So, for example, instead of, okay, I'm going to cut out all sugars, I'm going to eat, a protein, a vegetable, and a healthy fat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm going to replace all my pop with water. Like, that's going to be a lot to change for you right off the bat. So it's like, okay, for this week, let's just focus on drinking more water. And then if you can do that for a week, you add in the next thing. If you struggle with it, do it for another week. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're successful, you drink more water. It naturally will probably reduce the amount of pop or coffee or whatever else you're drinking, because you can only drink so much. If you're drinking 12 sodas and then you try to add in 64 ounces of water, something's got to give, right?
Yeah.
So just adding in that will hopefully help you reduce some other stuff. And then maybe it's okay, I'm going to have a high protein breakfast. We'll start with that. And then maybe it's adding, okay, now let's do a high protein breakfast and lunch. And okay, now let's do a vegetable with lunch and dinner or something like that. So you're adding one little thing at a time until it becomes a habit for you. So example, kind of what I was saying, is swapping out a sugary drinks. And I don't even necessarily like swapping it out. I just suggest, hey, start with water. So like if you're a coffee drinker, if you're a pop drinker, put your bottle of water right next to the first thing you go to in the morning. So what's the first thing you do in the morning?
Go to the bathroom.
Okay, so put this right on the bathroom, like the sink, the counter. And so you'll see it as soon as you go in there. You probably brush your teeth in the morning too.
Yep.
So if it's right next to your toothbrush, you're like, oh, got to drink my water. And then you drink this entire bottle of water to start your day. You're not only going to get more water in, but you're probably not going to drink as much coffee or pop or energy drinks or whatever, right? So that's called habit stacking. We talk about that quite a bit too. It's stack a healthy habit with an old habit or maybe an unhealthy habit that you have. Let's see.
Just a quick touch on habits.
Yep.
I saw this. It was like a summary on Facebook of Atomic Habits. And what really stuck out to me was making a list of your daily habits visually that you can see all the time. Because he says in the book, one of the greatest challenges in changing habits is maintaining awareness of what we're actually doing or trying to change.
Yep.
And sometimes people just forget about, it's a busy day and you're working on trying to change some different habits and lifestyles. And so just trying to maintain awareness of that when life gets busy or life gets complicated, that's the biggest thing. Because, you end up automating back or reverting back to old habits that just comes on automatically. If it's not a habit yet, if you're trying to make it a habit, it makes it harder to stick to that.
Hard to stay aware of.
Right. And so, like, my recommendation would be there's a bunch of printouts that you could get and list out your habits, and that way you can mark it off each day, even if you just put it on a calendar, and then you can mark it off each day. So then that way, visually, as long as you can see it every day, you're reminded of it.
Yeah. And as you go on, I'm sure it gets easier.
Right.
Put it on your mirror or something in the morning. And
then once it's something that you can do without really thinking about it, that's when you know it's a habit.
Yeah.
Because you don't really have to think about brushing your teeth because your toothbrush is right there. Like, you go to the bathroom in the morning, like you get up, like you're even half asleep still, and you're like, okay, bathroom, wash face, brush teeth. It's it's something that you can do robotically.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last habit that I've adopted intentionally. I think we do it a lot unintentionally.
Right, it is
more
very
than
unintentional.
We do intentionally.
Yeah.
Well, like when you're making a nutrition change or like a fitness change or you're starting at the gym, usually all those habits have to be intentional.
My sourdough habit. That's new.
There you go. That's yeah.
It's like I took out my starter this morning, gotta let it get to room temperature, then I'm gonna feed it. And
Yeah.
so just the habit of, okay, I need to make sure I get it out on this day so that I can bake it on this day. And so that's a different habit that I'm getting into
Yeah.
with that. So I guess it's the newest habit that I've done
Yeah.
or worked on. Another thing is, let's see, what's the next part of it? So yeah, the biggest thing is being consistent with it. It's not about perfection, where a lot of the crash diets, you feel like you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Whereas, even just 60% of the time, if you're doing a new habit, you'll see results over the long run, over a year. If you're doing something consistently 60% of the time for a whole year, you're going to see way better results.
Yeah.
We compared that to doing 100% for 2 months versus 60% for the whole year. That really makes a big difference.
And we've never pushed perfection. And I think a lot of the other programs that are out there, like those weight loss programs, I don't know the names of all of them, but there's a bunch of them,
Mm-hmm.
I think they've gotten better at not requiring,
Being
when you
perfect,
log
yeah.
everything, being perfect. Because that relapse is a big reason why people relapse.
Right, exactly, because they're focusing on this expectation of being perfect, but in reality, nobody's ever perfect.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to shoot for this unrealistic, unachievable expectation,
Mm-hmm.
and you're set up for success. You're not set up for success when you do that. Okay, we can move on to segment 3: how to enjoy food while still making progress. So, for me, mine might be different. I made a little bit different notes,
Oh,
but
did you?
the food is fuel myth
Mm-hmm.
and why you should still enjoy eating. Obviously, food gives us energy. It is our fuel for our body, but it also has cultural, emotional, and social parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, think about, we have a lot of events, family gatherings, friend gatherings, everything centered around food generally. And that's how it's been for all of history. It's like you have a big feast and you celebrate. The problem is sometimes we over celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
We're celebrating stuff when it's, just an everyday thing. Or we overeat even during the week and then still indulge in those instances. Through making these sorts of changes where your daily diet is, supporting your goals and everything like that, and that's going to be 95% of the time versus the 1 or 2 meals that you're going to have out socially each week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know many people that go out more than that for celebrations, right? Or for special occasions, right? Somebody doesn't have a birthday party to go to every week anymore.
Except for me in the month of June.
Except for you in June.
Yeah.
Right, but then even then, it's like
even then
June compared to the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if it is just 1 meal every weekend.
Very small.
Yeah. Or even just 1 day. It's still 6 out of 7 days that you can be doing the right things, doing all the good things and all the good habits.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the other big thing of focusing on consistency rather than being perfect is when you have those occasions, getting right back to it.
Yeah.
Just the bounce back time is huge. Because for some people, they'll go out on vacation and the bad habits tend to persist after that. But if you can be the person of, hey, I'm going to enjoy myself for this weekend or something, go on vacation, special occasion, but know that you're going to get right back to your old habits afterwards, and you actually end up looking forward to those habits, that's when you know you're on the right path.
Yeah. And even like if you do have a celebration with your family, maybe you're just having like a cookout or something,
Mm-hmm.
You don't have make some of the stuff homemade,
Yeah.
You can make it a healthier meal.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be like store-bought container of, I don't know, potato salad or like instant mashed potatoes.
Right. You can still make healthy choices.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And focus on, instead of I'm going to eat all the things, it's like, no, enjoy it, have your little bit of it, but be mindful with it and actually enjoy and sit down. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, next part. Practicing mindful eating. So that's part of it, is sitting down and slowing down, being mindful about what you're eating. So listening to your hunger cues instead of just eating out of your habit.
Harder than you think.
Yes, it is harder than you think, especially when you're busy, you're trying to run, you got kids, you're, trying to eat through work. A huge thing, though, like slowing down, eating without distraction, and truly enjoying and realizing that your food is a gift. I came to this realization the other day. A lot of people will see food as almost an inconvenience, or as something that's, maybe that's controlling them or holding them back for their goals, or it's just something like, I got to get through this meal so then I can get back to work. We don't actually take time to really enjoy the gift that it is of like people had to work to grow the ingredients and then people had to ship it and then you made the meal or somebody else made the meal, and appreciating that like we didn't always have this much abundance of food.
Yeah.
To the point where we have a problem of people eating too much. It's not everybody's hungry and starving and can only have bread for a meal, bread and some broth. Like that's honestly, it wasn't that long ago when the Great Depression happened, and that was a reality for people. And so learning to have that gratitude for your meal, and it's like, hey, this food's actually a gift and I should appreciate it instead of just trying to rush through it and get through it because it's annoying that I have to stop, or like I need to get through it because I got to get back to this. It's like actually sit down, enjoy your meal. It takes less time than you think. It doesn't take you half an hour to eat a meal.
No.
It does if you're scrolling, maybe. Or actually,
Yeah.
you might actually eat faster when you're scrolling, but you're not aware of it.
Yeah.
And, just even for me, personal experience, working on slowing down and sitting at the meal and not having anything distracting me versus if I am distracted, if I do end up distracted, I want something sweet afterwards. But then if I actually sit down and just enjoy the meal and I'm not distracted by anything, I'm satisfied with it. I don't go like, ooh, I kind of want something sweet or I kind of want something else.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Even just that little shift makes a big difference.
Agreed.
Well, think about it. I mean, if you go back even further, I mean, you had to either hunt or gather your food every day.
Yeah.
That was the whole day. It was just finding food to survive.
Every day, yeah.
So, yeah, definitely glad you brought that up.
Mhm.
I'm not sure where you guys are at.
We're on practice mindful eating.
Kind of funny, actually. So, the guy wanted to come in and sign up. He said he used to work out in the gym regularly and he felt great. He hasn't in a while, and now his back is bothering him, his knees are bothering him, and he's weaker. And so he's unable. He said he really struggles. He's got 2 motorcycles and he is struggling moving around. So he wants to regain some of that strength and feel better. And he asked me about nutrition. And so I gave him pick one plan, make it simple, sustainable. Just pick one thing at a time, and so hopefully, that'll help him out. But it was just funny that he asked about that as we're talking about
Ironic.
this topic. Where are we at? Did you say 80-20?
Practice mindful eating.
Oh,
So now practical
right.
tips for eating out.
Practical tips for eating out. Okay, so strategies for making choices without feeling like you're cheating. How to navigate family gatherings, parties, vacations while staying on track. So for me, what I do is when I'm a creature of habit. You guys maybe know this, but like every single time I go out, I pretty much get the same meal. Steak, a vegetable, and potatoes. For me, I always start with the veggies. So I eat the veggies first, and then I have my protein, and then I have my carb last. Now, I'm a guy that's going to finish my plate no matter what, but for those of you that are maybe trying to be a little more conscious of it, just try to get a vegetable and a protein every time you go out. You can get whatever you want. Try to prioritize vegetables and proteins and eat those first, and then save kind of the carbs for last. Because if you go the other way, you might fill up on the carbs. You might not finish all your protein. And you might not even touch your vegetables, for example. So I always start with like, okay, what's the best thing on my plate, or the thing that I want the least, and I'll eat that first. I'll kind of save the best for last.
That's good.
So that's just my
didn't
tip.
think
And that's
about
what
that.
I do. Yeah. So
I always don't think when I eat, and that's
No.
bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even like when I go, I'll go home today, and I'll have I have ground beef, vegetables, or broccoli, and potatoes. I always eat the broccoli first because it's actually my least favorite thing to eat in that meal. So I save the best for last in every meal. But it's also the healthiest thing that's probably in that meal. So that's my tip on what to kind of do. I don't know what you guys have, but
Yeah. Mine's similar. It's, if I'm going out or a family function or anything, I'm always looking for, okay, how do I get my protein in and my vegetables and fruit? And that's what I focus on, filling up in the plate first. And then I still enjoy the other little things, but you just take a little tiny amount. Like you don't need big dollops of potato salad or pasta salad. It's like, okay, just have like a little amount. Because by the time you get done with your plate, you're full anyways.
Yeah.
And it's like there's usually going to be more left, so you can always go back for more if you are still hungry, but usually you're satisfied with that amount. And then also just, being mindful, eating slowly, chewing, setting the fork down in between bites so you don't eat too fast and then you feel bloated and miserable the whole time. And then on the eating veggies first, they did, I don't remember the exact percentage of the study, but if you have like a veggie tray and you snack on veggies before you have your actual meal, you eat less calories at that meal.
Yeah.
Because you're already
Makes sense.
full. So instead of snacking on rolls or sweets or treats, have the veggie tray that somebody brought to the function, or have a salad before your meal when you go out to a restaurant.
Yep.
Because they'll
That's
usually bring
really
that first,
common.
anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I usually do. I need like some sort of meat with my meal, so I keep it not fried, like grilled. If it's chicken, grilled chicken instead of fried chicken, or a leaner cut of meat if there is, and not greasy. Like I try to avoid like big greasy burgers. Or,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's not even really me being health conscious, even though it is. I just don't like
Yeah.
a
And
bunch of
that's-
grease on it.
And the reason you probably don't like it is because you eat relatively healthy all
Yeah.
the time. So, in other words, your taste buds have adjusted.
Yeah.
So, like
Just
people
don't feel
that
good.
right now, they might think, oh, that healthy stuff tastes like crap. Like you might be addicted to greasy burgers
Yeah.
and fries and milkshakes or whatever. It's because your taste buds are just, that's
Yeah.
the way they are. So, if you switch it up, it actually adapts. Like your taste buds will change over time when you eat that kind of stuff. So it's just funny
Yeah.
that you said that because, I've noticed it too, like from eating clean over the last 10 plus years, like you go get a butter burger from Culver's, you're like, oh God, like,
Yeah,
this
I
is
can't do it.
overwhelming,
I don't want it. Yeah.
So yeah.
I
I'm
still
like
the
that.
butter burgers.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm that guy when you get a pizza, like I'll take a napkin and like that's
Oh,
the
really?
pizza. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's way too greasy.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
And
And
then
then
you're getting Little Caesars.
yeah, that too. Yeah, pizza Hut's way better. When you get like a salad or something, I never get my dressing on top. Like I haven't put it in a cup on the side
There you
if they
go.
don't
Then you control
already.
it, yeah.
Yeah, you know, because I always put way too much dressing on top
Yeah.
of the salad. And then obviously like my sides, I try to like switch out whatever. Like if there's, I don't know, instead of like French fries or onion rings, I'll get like coleslaw or their vegetable, whatever vegetable they have, or something else.
You can usually just like do a baked
Rice.
potato or
Yeah, or
something.
baked potato.
Sweet potato,
Yeah.
something like that.
So
Little off topic here, but I want your guys' opinion, and you might have some on this. But like most of the conversations I have about nutrition with people, either in the gym or outside of the gym, they immediately jump right to, "Oh, I'm eating more salads." Like
yeah.
salad is like the only thing you can eat apparently when you're on a diet. Like, why do you think that is, and what's the problem with it?
Why do I think that is? Salads are just synonymous with healthy eating.
I think it's like just because of the
And-
marketing of it, or like because they've been marketed as
That's
like a
definitely
healthy
part of it. You have
Yeah.
yes, this is a healthy alternative, which, you're getting your vegetables in, but there's also, being careful of what they're adding into it. Because if
Yeah.
by the time you add avocado and bacon and cheese and the dressing and whole eggs and stuff like that, it can rack up the calories.
Right.
Absolutely. And if there's breaded chicken on there, there's obviously there's traps that'll make it higher calorie density. But you probably you won't be able to finish it, so maybe you would still have a lesser portion of it. But obviously, it just depends on the content of it. And if people don't like salads, though, there's obviously way other
Yeah, like
like a bigger option of.
do either of you eat salads very much?
I like a salad.
I do quite a bit, but
Do you
it's
really?
not like my meal.
Like, do you make one yourself like every week, or
Yeah.
do you really?
Every week, every other week, something like that.
I do a few
Yeah.
times a week actually.
I do.
But I think
Because
it's
I like it.
yeah. I think it's
Yeah, if you like it, but like I just said, if you don't feel like you have to
Yeah.
have a salad,
Right.
Like just to eat healthier. You don't.
You can
have
make
to
roasted
have a
veggies
salad.
in the
Yeah.
oven or air fryer. It's great.
Yep.
Make it crispy. Put some
I
flavors
love
on it.
broccoli and like
me too.
baked broccoli.
Me
And
too.
it's crunchy,
Yeah.
Crispy.
Yeah, crispy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think the salad like stigma goes back like before my time,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't really know for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, if you ever seen somebody portrayed as dieting in any movie
They're
or
eating a
television
salad,
show,
Yeah.
you're eating a salad.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yep. just wanted to ask about that because I thought it was interesting. Then you brought it up. A
Yeah.
salad too. All right. So last thing here, we're going to wrap this up. The 80-20 rule. So why you don't need to be perfect. So 80-20 rule is 80% of your food should come from whole, nutrient-dense foods. 20% can be fun foods, indulgences, whatever you kind of want. So that's actually more than what most people would think. Like if you're eating 1,500 calories a day, 150 calories of a snack, I mean, that's like a whole candy bar. That's a couple of cookies, you know? Like you can still enjoy your treats and your sweets. It's just in that moderation and not going beyond it. You know, for me, I get like 400 calories of whatever I want. So that's where my big old peanut butter and jelly and my Olipop, and I'm actually might be posting kind of everything I eat in a day, and that's like my nighttime good meal is some Triscuits, which isn't terrible. Triscuits, Olipop, and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah, PBJ.
I like Triscuits.
So,
That's good.
they're actually scanned really well.
Really?
They're actually
I eat
probably
them
the
quite a
best
bit.
like cracker you can get.
Yeah, I get the little bags of them.
Yep. So you do not have to be perfect. This is going to help you stay sustainable, stay sane a little bit. Like you're not going to go nuts or hate what you're doing.
Yeah, honestly.
Why perfection isn't the goal. So research from Precision Nutrition and other sources show that sustainable eating habits lead to long-term success. Over restriction leads to burnout. So balance is key. How to implement this 80-20 rule in real life. Example, meal breakdowns and how to structure your week. Oh, so this is giving us. So
Yeah.
we have
There
here
you go.
actually a great example and our new branded meal plan, sample meal plan,
Meal guide.
meal
Right.
guide. Yeah, it's on a plan. Don't follow it. It's a guide. You can
It's a guide.
you can change it how you want. Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, meal 1, egg whites, bell peppers, blueberries, hash brown, egg. Okay. Meal 2, we've got your chicken, green beans, strawberries, jasmine rice, avocado. Meal 3, chicken breast, peppers, shredded cabbage, tortilla, Mexican cheese. So more like maybe like a kind of a taco. And then for your treat, you have a fudge skull, you have a Quest bar, you have Halo Top ice cream, rice cakes. So these are obviously not all in one sitting. This is one per night. I just figured I would list some of those off. It's got chocolate on here. You know, Friday night if you want to have a beer, a glass of wine. You know, that's like your treat for the day. Kettle corn, that kind of thing. So, in other words, you've got 3 somewhat, you know, your balanced meals. We have our pick one plan. It's called, is where for 3 meals a day you pick one option of protein, one option of fruits or veggies, one option from the carb list, and then one from the fat, and you create your meal. So it can literally be any food from that list that you like, and you can create a meal that you actually enjoy out of it. And you can use your hand portion for measuring it out, your hand for measuring portions out, or you could use the kind of sample guide on here for men and women. So maybe I'll include this into the comments or something in case people want to download pick one plan and then our sample week. So just kind of making sure that we're incorporating some of those snacks or things that you actually do enjoy. And I'm sure on here, so like a couple days a week, you can have whatever you want for dinner. So if you want pizza Fridays, go for it. Like 80% goes for your daily, but it also goes for your weekly. So, you know, if you eat 21 meals in a week, about 20% of that is 4 meals can be whatever you want, really. I mean, it's still 80% on track.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind, you guys. The key takeaways is going to be diets fail because they're not sustainable. Nutrition success is about building habits, not following rules. Enjoying food and flexibility is necessary for long-term results. It needs to build into your everyday life. The 80-20 rule is the best way to create balance while reaching your goals. So what's one small habit that you could start this week? Maybe try to identify what your current nutrition habits are like and maybe what area needs the most improvement, and decide on one thing that might move the needle a little bit towards your goals. Make sure you like and subscribe, share the video with a friend or family member. Let us know in the comments if you have any ideas that you would like us to talk about. We were just talking about that today, like what ideas we have for the coming weeks. So if you want to give us ideas for this, feel free to shoot and we will do our best to make a topic on it. So until next time, stay healthy and we will see you soon.